Craig says, I saw an email from SM with the power of G sites for GBP. Can you give a quick summary of the pros of a G site? Yeah, G sites are great for, we still do the uh, Google Sites and Drive Stack stuff. Um, I I kind of don't do much with the Drive Stacks as much anymore. It's not that they're not effective. It's just not something that I've done a lot with recently. But we still do the the Google Sites, whether we have a full Drive Stack or not. Let me give you an example. Local geos, no, that's the old one. G Sites for local SEO right here. Let me just pick one. All right, here's an example. This right here is the method overview, which kind of talks about how we use Google Sites for local SEO. The workbook here, let's see, create site, copy workbook, prepare sheet, site mirror overview. This is what I was trying to look for. See if it pops up. Yeah, I'm surprised it doesn't have a graphic here. But in any case, why I like to use Google Sites is we do that's what's called site mirroring. Site mirroring is where you basically create a one-to-one ratio um, for top level pages. Like in other words, create a branded G site that mirrors the structure of the main website. Just top level. I'm not talking about blog posts. You can omit those. And you don't need like the privacy policy terms of service. I'm talking about top level product and service pages. So the homepage, top level product or service pages, and top level location pages, right? And you create those into like you mirror a one-to-one ratio for the homepage of the G site mirrors the homepage of the main website, right? Top level service pages, one-to-one ratio. Okay. And reason why we do that is because what I like to do, and this has changed slightly because I have seen where the G site can cannibalize the money site, which is odd, but it's because of the embed function. So I'm gonna explain this in a minute. When we do a G site mirror, okay, what we're doing is we are creating basically a container to place the main website into. The G site becomes the container or a wrapper, right? A wrapper that wraps around the main website. Why do we do that? Because you can be a hell of a lot more aggressive with link building to a Google site than you would ever want to be direct to your money site. That's why, right? And here's the thing with tree service contractors, I've said this for years, guys. My policy has been I don't work on other people's websites. Full stop. If it's somebody else did the website, I'm not touching the damn thing, right? If a client insists on keeping a website that instead of using one that we build for them, then that's perfectly fine. I tell them right up front, look, if you want to continue using that website or whatever, that's fine. I will provide you with or your webmaster with full instructions, very detailed audit of on-page optimization instructions. Like here's what needs to be done in order for this site to perform the way that it should. And your webmaster can execute those changes. If they're not willing or able to do that, then it's like going into a fight with one arm tied behind your back. But I have had contractor clients that have not that wanted to keep their own website instead of letting us build one, but they didn't want to, or their webmaster or whatever just wouldn't make changes. So what do we do in that case? Well, number one, I tell them it's likely going to hurt the performance, our ability to get you guys results. So fire webmaster and get another one, or use our sites. And I typically can convince them at that point to switch over to my sites anyways. But if they don't, which a number of them won't, because they think that their site is beautiful or they spent $5,000 on it, and even though it sucks for performance in SEO, they want to keep it because it's the sunk cost fallacy, right? They've got a bunch of money into it, so they don't want to give it up. That happens a lot too. So coming back to the G site, you can correct. It's not the same as doing all this on the main website, but it is a decent alternative, which is you can correct structural issues from the main website by building a G site mirrored to the main site, but then you make the corrections through the structure. What do I mean? Internal linking corrections, for example. You guys know I talk about building sites that have one page for each service and one page for each location. And you cross-link through, or through internal linking is how you create the associations between service pages and location pages. That way you don't have to have service times location for every service times every location, which creates redundancy. The helpful content update is specifically targeting shit like that, competing pages, redundancy, etc. So eliminate all that noise, make the site more focused, more efficient to crawl, and right, crawl efficiency or site efficiency is critically important. That's, in my opinion, the second most important thing in local SEO. But then internal linking, right? If we've got a site that is not optimized the way that I would want to, and their webmaster is unwilling to make the changes, then I will tell them right up front, it's likely we're going to have trouble getting the results in the same time frame. So because of this, our timelines are going to have to be adjusted and blah blah blah. But here's what we can do. We can develop an external site. It's on Google Sites that we will use as a container to wrap around your main website where we can make corrections to the structure. For an example, internal links, etc. Because now what we can do is by the way, I started to talk about this. For each mirrored page, you want to embed the corresponding money site page. So that's why I said it's a wrapper or a container. It literally, the G site is acting as a container that you are placing the main website in. And that way you can make corrections to how those pages on the G site link to each other, their SEO titles, the content within those pages. Yes, you want to embed the page, the money site page, but I can add more content through text box, video boxes, embeds, anything else that I want within that page. And I can create internal links between G site pages to correct the internal linking that isn't done on the main website. Do you understand? And so then because by the way, in case you don't know this, an embed, an iframe acts almost like a bidirectional link. And in that, link authority passes from the containing page that has the embed, the iframe. It passes link equity from that containing page through the iframe to the money site, but vice versa. There's a little bit of kind of authority transfer from the embedded property back to its host, the page that it's embedded into. That's part of the reason, guys, why YouTube videos embedded into things like press releases and money site pages, etc., is helpful because it's embedding Google code. Number one, you're acting also as a kind of a publisher for Google in that case, but it's also because you get a little bit of authority from YouTube back to the main site through that embed. Because like I said, it almost acts as like a bidirectional do follow type of a link. It's not the same as a link, but there is some similarities as to how link equity flows. And so the whole point that I'm trying to make is with the mirrored G site, we can create some, if we have access to the main website and we can optimize that properly, then it just becomes another layer so that we can be more aggressive with link building to the G site. Now, I talked about sometimes you'll see where the G site will actually cannibalize the money site. And I've seen that happen. And I've got a landscaping and tree service client in Florida where that has happened. And so if that is the case and that where you see the G site outrank the money site for money site terms, then what I recommend is you remove the embed for the one-to-one page ratio. I just told you want to have each individual page embedded into its corresponding page on the G site. You remove the embed and instead make it just a hyperlink. That's the way you overcome the cannibalization. In many cases, I don't see that, but in some cases, I'll see the G site outrank the money site because we do more aggressive link building to the G site. And so sometimes that's all it takes is we push enough link authority into the G site that it ends up outranking the money site. And when clients don't like that, which I understand if they don't, then we just remove the embed from the G site and instead turn it into a hyperlink instead. And that kind of lowers the authority to the G site a little bit and pushes the link equity that's flowing into the G site through that internal link to the money site page anyway. Do you understand? So it's basically a way to create two versions of the site, the main money site, and in the second version, which is a G site that acts as a container or a wrapper that wraps around the main money site that allows you to make corrections when the on page is out of your control. But it also allows you to be a hell of a lot more aggressive with link building because the G site, you can be very aggressive with link building too. Hopefully that's clear. Okay, good question. So did I answer your question, Craig? Any other questions on that? We had some other stuff that we did. I can't remember the site mirroring process. This is G sites for local SEO, but we had the content mirroring process, which was kind of a component of that. Let me show that diagram because that's what I wanted to show. It's not quite the same. It's content mirroring. Here's one with no GBP, which is fine because we don't have posts anymore. This is what I was kind of talking about, was this right here. So this is showing basically a content mirroring structure with the G site as the outermost container. This is like the Russian dolls. You know what I mean? Like, Russian dolls, you got a big doll, you open it up and there's one just slightly smaller in it. You open that up, one slightly smaller in it. It's the same fucking concept. That's exactly what we're doing here. So this content mirroring structure is using the money site as the original source, then YouTube as the first kind of supporting asset. It's not really a container. It's kind of a supporting asset. And then we use Blogger as the first container, the first wrapper that wraps around both the money site page and the YouTube video. And then we use Cloud Pages as a wrapper around the Blogger blog pages or posts, depending on how you set it up. And then we use the G site as the wrapper around the Cloud Pages. So you end up with an iframe stack, right? It's that's exactly what it is. It's you've got these contain Russian doll number one, Russian doll number two, Russian doll number three, money site and YouTube videos right down in the middle, the chewy center, right? The creamy nougat center of this structure is the money site and the YouTube videos. And each one of these layers becomes link building targets. And you can be very aggressive with link building to these container layers. Do you understand? Because these are all high domain authority properties. And I don't give a shit about Moz's domain authority metric, but I mean, the authority of the domains is such that you can be very, very aggressive with link building to them, much more than you would ever want to be directly to the money site. But because of the iframe containers acting as kind of like a bidirectional do follow link, you can push a ton of link equity all the way down to the money site without ever directly linking to the money site. That's the whole point of this. And by the way, you don't have to stop here. This was just a diagram showing the example. You can find other containers or wrappers and add multiple layers to this, if that's clear. Okay. All right.